Well, good morning and welcome to the Real Monica Adams podcast. We are so thrilled to have you on board. If you don't know what this mission's about, it's all about positivity, the mental, spiritual, physical connection of life. The triangle of life theory that I've been talking about for over 5 years, that is what we are trying to help you with your life, the tools that will help you with that guiding light. Today, we're going to talk a lot about our military, our first responders. We're going to talk about Grunt Style, Stop Soldier Suicide, American Grit. This is a show that I want you to let anyone know that's ever been in the service, and thank each and every one of you, no matter what branch you were in, for doing what you did, for enlisting. Maybe you were drafted, maybe you have had a grandparent or great-grandparent. You know the stories of them and their military life. But have you ever understood their mind, their soul, their spirit, their body, of how they really need to take care of themselves and how you can help them with that? Today is all about helping. In fact, I already have my chills this morning because I know it's going to be a powerful one. I have 5 gentlemen that are going to change your life. You won't want to miss one part of that. We're going to start with Stop Soldier Suicide. My guest coming up next in the blue chair. Envita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Envita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Envita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Envita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online envitahealthandwellness.com. And welcome back to the Real Monica Adams Show. As I promised, we're going to start with Stop Soldier Suicide. Chuck Eastman is my guest, and you're the Director of Strategic Operations?
Partnerships, correct?
Partnerships.
Yep. Close enough.
So we had an opportunity to do a full-blown show together, and immediately you just touched my heart so much that I wanted to make sure that I had you on this show, that we could continue to spread the word. So some people, I think, have found challenges in life, and they've seen, hey, let's do this many push-ups for hearing about the military and soldiers taking their own lives. We've seen those things. We've done that for awareness, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. So let's go back to the origination of Stop Soldier Suicide. How long has it been around?
We've been around since 2010. So we originated from 3 soldiers that served together in the same unit in Afghanistan. They served in the Korengal River Valley, which, if you've seen Restrepo, that's the Korengal at the time. I think it was ABC News that deemed it the most dangerous place on earth. They spent 15 months in daily, they called it troops in contact. So firefights with the enemy every single day. So very kinetic, very dynamic and dangerous place. And they came back and they lost more soldiers to suicide in the first 6 months than they did in the 15 months in combat. So they sat down and they said, we've got to do something about this. And they bought a 1-800 number and they started taking calls from veterans and service members. And then fast forward to where we are today with a wraparound case management approach with suicide-specific clinical modalities backed by a scientific advisory committee with years of success and data to back it up.
And Chuck, let's talk about your own background. You were in the military. What branch and where did you serve?
I started in the Army. Well, I served 20 years in the Army. I started in the infantry in the 75th Ranger Regiment with 3rd Ranger Battalion. I started there pre-9/11, so the pre-9/11 Ranger Battalion was much different than post-9/11. We were fortunate to be involved in some of the early days in Afghanistan. That was captured on October 19th, 2001, to do the first boots on the ground in Afghanistan. Progressed throughout my career, ended up going to flight school and flying Apaches. Spent 15 months in Iraq, for like the Battle of Sadr City, flying Apaches. And then assessed for the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment and flew AH-6 Little Birds until my retirement, with multiple deployments in between.
I heard one of the guys yesterday that when we were talking, he's like a real life Rambo. Have you been told that?
I think by my sister. I think the people in the soft community that understand that, there's a whole bunch of people with some pretty interesting backgrounds. We just don't do a lot of talking about it because
Sure.
it's try to stay quite professionals is our mantra.
Absolutely. Well, the work that you're doing now, day in and day out, is truly what is giving back. And I know it's hard. One of the things that we always say as civilians is we can never truly understand the life that you've led, what you've seen, and that transition back is one of the hardest things. We talked in that show that we did together about waking up and the regiment of what you're taught in your branch. It's that organization. It's the tools that you're given, and this is what you know. And then all of a sudden, when that uniform comes off and you strip it off, it's like stripping off the armor, and you try to figure out who are you. And do you think that's where a lot of the mental health side starts?
I think transition is definitely a very major contributing factor. Like 67% of our clients say their transition was very poor or poor, which is a surprise to me because I had a very smooth transition. I think transition is combined with a lot of other things. Like if you had somebody that joined the military for a certain number of reasons, so if they had a bad childhood and they wanted to have like this sense of family and tribe again, and then all of a sudden they have a medical discharge or a bad conduct discharge or a downsizing. Like when I came into the 90s, people would get just released. So sometimes discharges are unexpected. That we have this ambassador that spent most of his career in Air Force Special Operations and got injured, and he was told that like before he was ready to be done, like you have to retire, and that's devastating.
Yeah.
You have this sense of purpose in this. Every day you wake up, you may not put on the uniform every day, but you have the mission every day, and all of a sudden that's gone, and like the people that you would work with every single day are just not there. And all of a sudden you're left to figure out health insurance, to figure out how to pay for your bills, how to translate your skills. Like attack helicopter pilot doesn't translate very well to civilian medevac helicopter pilot. There's a lot of nuances with the transition depending on what you were doing. If you were a nurse in the Army or medical corps, that's easier to translate. But there's a lot of combat arms that are designed for a certain reason to defeat the enemy. That's not translatable. So it's a difficult process.
And Chuck, does it feel like you're almost talking a different language? Because one thing I've found being around people in military or law enforcement is the humor that's used sometimes to mask the pain of the things that you've seen, the trauma that you've experienced, and you just laugh things off. You say jokes or you tell things that we're all like, what are you talking about? And it's like a different language. But it's because there's a disconnect. We don't, as I said, we don't know what you've seen. We don't understand that life.
Yeah, so I mean, the humor is partly there to disconnect reality from what you've been through,
Yeah.
And it's also just to as a distraction as well. Like I always use the analogy. Well, I can't take credit for the analogy, but the analogy of walking down a road and having a rucksack on your back and experiencing a trauma, and you take that rock and you put it in your rucksack, and then you keep walking, and then you experience another trauma and you pick up another rock and you put that in your rucksack. 30 miles down the road, after multiple traumas, your rucksack's really heavy. So if you don't offload those rocks along the way, you're going to have a lot to deal with later on. But the humor is really the way of, kind of dealing with that. And then as far as the language goes, the acronyms, we speak a completely different language. And that's part of the transition is like, you don't walk into a meeting and say, Roger, hooah, all these sayings that the military has, you don't do it because people look at you funny.
If you're just tuning in, Chuck Eastman once again is my guest. The organization is Stop Soldier Suicide, and we actually gave a statistic of those that are involved in suicide with regards to deployed and not deployed. Talk about that.
Oh, well, it was one of the interesting factors that I discovered when I first came on board. So I had 17 deployments. So it was, from anywhere from 15 months to 1 month. It varied greatly. So 17 is not the important part, but I spent a lot of time in combat. So when I came into the organization, I had an assumption that there would be a correlation between combat experience and suicidality. And I quickly realized that half of our clients had never deployed, which I actually went to like the data manager. I'm like, is this right? This can't be right. Like, why are so many of our clients suicidal, but they don't have combat experience? And then our clinical director was able to explain to me that trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter if traumas you experience as a child or from combat or from a car accident or from police service or for whatever it may be. Trauma is trauma and how it affects your brain physically. So it doesn't matter where we got our trauma from. Our trauma is all the same. How we deal with it is up to ourselves. And I think the stigma surrounding military trauma is just that we're supposed to be stronger. We're supposed to be braver and be able to push through things and say, suck it up and just, get over it. But the reality is that that's a really dangerous way to go.
And when you transition into civilian life, it all comes like crushing down on you. And now it's not the regimented life, and now you see it all, almost like a movie playing in front of your eyes. StopSoldierSuicide.org is the website I want you to go to. What's the phone number, the 24-hour crisis line?
So the 24-hour crisis line will vary by time of day, but if they go to StopSoldierSuicide.org, there will be a phone number immediately above the Get Help button.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break, and we have a few minutes left with our guest. We're going to talk about what I think is really powerful, which is the Black Box Project. More with Chuck Eastman when we return.
Carroll House Furniture is growing and hiring for many positions. Drive to success, delivering concierge service and setup in customer homes.
Enjoy teamwork in our clean, organized warehouse where Carroll House stocks for fast, free delivery.
Associates sell more and make more with 3.5 acres of choices in stock, infinite custom orders, plus the lowest prices in the country.
If you like top pay and the best benefits in St. Louis, you'll love working here.
So if you like nice things, join the Carroll House Furniture family.
Welcome back, and you are tuned in to the Real Monica Adams Show. We're talking about veterans, military, law enforcement, so many aspects of taking care of our men and women who have fought for us. Stop Soldier Suicide is what we're discussing for you this morning. Chuck Eastman is my guest. So, Chuck, we talked about the origination of the organization. Go into that a little deeper for me.
Yes, the origination of the organization was, again, the three guys that served together that had discovered that the suicide rate for the unit they served with was much higher than the combat losses that they experienced. So we developed our clinical model through the years to where it is today, but we also have the special project that we're working on that kind of originated 4 years ago called the Black Box Project. The impetus being our chief technology officer was using some similar technology for anti-human trafficking. And when he kind of explained what they were doing and how they were doing it, and I said, that sounds like a black box in an aircraft. And our chief marketing officer was like, that's the name of it. So that's how we came up with it. The name really correlates to a black box in an aircraft. So if you go back to the 1950s, and if there's an aircraft accident, everybody on board died and there was no witnesses, you were at the mercy of an aircraft accident investigator to put the pieces back together, determine what caused it. Was it weather-related, mechanical, human error? Whatever it may be. So fast forward to the implementation of the black box, so the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, we can piece back together the final seconds, minutes, and hours of every little data piece of that accident. So we can take a learning from that accident, apply it towards safety boards, safety reviews, mechanical reviews, and having better inspections, whatever it may be, to hopefully prevent a future similar accident from happening again. Now, black boxes don't prevent aircraft accidents, they just don't, but they help learn more from it.
Right.
So our approach is borrowing devices from families that unfortunately have already lost a loved one, a veteran or a service member to suicide, and we are borrowing their phones, tablets, computers, and we're extracting all the data that we can from those devices, using all the same technology and software that the three-letter agencies use and law enforcement use, and we compile that data, we upload it to a data cloud. It is de-identified and uploaded to AWS for their machine learning and AI. And it's really a one-of-a-kind look, kind of behind the curtain, because everyone carries their phone with them.
Right.
We look at our phone at 3 a.m. for odd items, but we don't tell our spouse about it.
Right.
Like, why am I not sleeping? Why do I have these pains? Why?
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that people are looking for. So it's an insight into their life that we've never had before.
And one of the things that you have seen by those who have taken their lives is the sleeplessness and the time frame. Did you say it was like midnight or 11 to 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning?
Yes, about 12 to 4 in the morning. There's a drastic, in the final year of life, there is a drastic increase in phone use activity from hours of 12 to 4. The researchers will say, well, that kind of makes sense because that correlates with, some suicidal behaviors as disturbance in sleep. That's kind of generic. Like, we have data points that we can show last year life and this curve of increased phone use, or between midnight and 4 a.m. in the final 4 days before they take their life, there's a marked increase in the amount of cell phone use or phone use and sleeplessness in general.
Chuck, what you're doing with that, that's the one that gave me chills when we were doing this show. And it was, no, you don't want to have lost your person, but if they can use this technology to save a life, it's like that person's giving back or living within that person. I know that's hard to say, but I lost mine. And eventually you transition your mind to, okay, but what they're doing hopefully can save lives moving forward. And that's what we're here. Chuck, thank you so much for your time. Again, it's stopsoldiersuicide.org, and it's trying to get into the mindset, the grief, the angst, the fear, the trauma that has taken place so that we can try to move forward and save lives. Thank you for what you're doing, and please thank your entire staff and all the volunteers and interns. I know there's a lot of people that feel very passionate about this. Do you need donations for your organization?
Yeah, I mean, we, as our CEO says, he sets the vision, and it's up to the donations to set the pace. Like we're scaling as fast as we can.
Okay.
We can't hire fast enough to meet our mission, which is to reduce veteran suicide to civilian parity by 2030. So if we close our doors in 2030 and I'm without a job, that'll be the best transition I could ever hope for.
Amen, sir. And thank you again for your service.
Thank you very much.
StopSoldierSuicide.org. Again, this hour, very powerful for you to listen, receive the message in any way. We're talking about mental, physical, spiritual, emotional help as well. We're going to discuss that with two of our guests, JD and Angel. It's their triangular compass, and that's what we'll have when we return.
Warm weather, sand beaches, and boats galore. It's not Florida, it's a Lake of the Ozarks. Florida Direct Palm Trees brings tropical flair to your patios, docks, and yards. From a few feet all the way to 25 feet, there are palm trees for every property. Florida Direct also provides palm tree potting soil, palm fertilizer, large decorative pots, and a wide selection of locally grown tropical flowers and plants to add the perfect accent to your tropical paradise. Florida Direct Palm Trees, bringing paradise to your patio for 14 plus years.
Welcome back, The Real Monica Adams Show, and we are talking all things military today. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Chuck Eastman, StopSoldierSuicide.org. We're going to give you a lot of web links today. I want you to go to all of them because they will be very impactful, very life-changing for you, for anybody that you know that has served. Maybe it's you that has served, and I keep saying thank you for your service. Maybe it's a family member from decades ago, generations ago, or it's someone that's talking about going in now. I want them to hear how we want to take care of their life. We've got to take care of them before they go in and absolutely when they get out. My next guest, as I promised, JD and Angel Santiago and JD Dejoyas. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
I've been practicing for about the last 24 hours. The reason I wanted to bring the two of you in, and thank you for coming in, is how similar our mindsets are. And it was kind of eerie. I mean, it's been giving me chills ever since we talked. We've got a beautiful show coming up in September, but I wanted you all to be on my show first. So I can't wait for what we did together to be shown all over several platforms. But you and I, all of us, talk about triangles. I talk about the triangle of life, and then you have the triangular compass, which we're going to get into in just a second. First, give us a background, though. You both are military veterans. Mm-hmm. You served in what branches
Army.
And where? Both Army?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Angel.
Okay, so
Army.
Angel first. Army,
Yeah.
And when did you go in?
In 2002.
Where were you?
In San Antonio.
Okay.
I was a 91 Victor respiratory therapist. I was down there.
And how many years were you in?
4.
4 years. Thank you again for your service. JD?
I was in the Army. I was a combat photographer. Served from 2016 to 2016. 2010 to 2016.
2010 to 2016?
Yeah, and then I got medically retired and been on the other side since.
Beautiful. So, as we've been talking about, there are things that you all see that we'll never understand. And that is the hardest part of the transition back into civilian life. I was just talking to Chuck about almost as if it's a foreign language that you all talk and we're like, well, we're never going to get this, right? And if it isn't for the brotherhood and the sisterhood that you have and to be able to talk with each other, you feel so very alone. And it's that spiritual disconnect, the mental disconnect, the emotional, the soulful, the body, that as life coaching, we understand. So you're a life coach
Yes,
also,
ma'am.
correct? You understand this triangle, and it just made sense to us. But I love it. You all have this picture where you were explaining to me. It's almost like looking from above. So describe that.
Yeah, it's like a 30,000 foot view of the whole idea of the triangular compass, or like the triangle of life. So body, soul, and spirit. And so when you work on those three areas, because those are the three aspects for which we live for, and neither one of those three is better than the other one. They're all alike.
Right.
But you can't really live a full life if you're not paying attention to each of those areas, if you're not spending time and nurturing each of those areas. So then when you do, then you get the benefits of becoming physically strong, mentally strong, emotionally strong, spiritually strong. And so that was the whole idea behind that. But we wanted to really help someone as a holistic approach to healing.
And JD, when did you all start working on this? When did this come to you of this aha moment?
This aha moment started probably about a year ago. So, I work at Grunt Style.
Right.
I run all of our content. It's been a great honor to do that. As a storyteller in the military, there's a responsibility there, with your content. So with Grunt Style, with our platform, we have a responsibility to our viewership, the people who look to us as, the leaders of this community. So with this resource, we kind of thought, like, what happened when we were going through? What didn't we have? When you're in the military, you have the support. You have A, you have B, you have to be here at this time, But as service members transition, you lose sight of that. And when you experience the triangular compass and you go through it, the first thing we talk about is fear and identity. Because when they transition out of the military, you wear your jacket. It has your airborne tab. It has all your accomplishments. You've earned all of that. But when you have to take it off and walk around in a society that doesn't prioritize that, you lose that sense of self-worthy, that purpose. So acknowledging the fear and the new identity is something that's not talked about when you transition out of the military.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about taking the uniform off and almost feeling bare. Any of us that would think of, you wouldn't go running outside naked because you would have this fear of people making fun of you or, hey, I can't do this. And you feel that stripping off your armor, your protection mode, right? Your confidence. It gives you that confidence. You've earned it. I think that was a really good point that you brought up.
They've earned it, but now they're told
Yes.
you can't wear that anymore. Or for, like in my experience, like, hey, you're medically retired. You're out of here. It's the mat ripped out from underneath your feet, right? So where do you go? How do you start to be what the military was for you? Hold yourself accountable. And what we acknowledge is that it starts with yourself, and this is built for self-leadership. And it's meant to bridge the gap, essentially.
The bridging of it to find your true compass, your true north.
Your true north.
If you're just tuned in, Angel and JD, and you mentioned Grunt Style, which we have the president of Grunt Style Foundation coming in after you. For those that aren't familiar with just that term alone, it's a military term. Grunt. What does it mean?
Oof. Well, I mean, I'm not a grunt. I was a combat photographer. But at Grunt Style, it's a lifestyle. We embody the warrior spirit. Right, so a lot of people think we just make shirts, and it's a lot more than that. Especially with the large platform that we have and the support that we have, we're able to do stuff like the Triangular Compass. We're able to do initiatives with Tim and the foundation. So Grunt Style, it's a lifestyle at the end of the day. It's not so much the grunt aspect, because we all like military form and service comes in many different ways.
Yes.
But it's more of a lifestyle. If you're, it's no different than a sports team. Someone explained that to me probably my first week at Grunt Style, and the light bulb turned on. This is the team I need to be a part of.
Team is so
I
important.
like that.
It's not that I mentality, right? So this is the interesting part. So those of you that follow me know that for about the last 5.5 years, I've been talking about the triangle of life, but with mine, and I just love this collaboration because that's the beautiful thing in life is you have to listen, be a sponge and absorb and say, oh, I see where you came up with that, instead of, no, it's my way. My way. So when I say it's 33.33%, 33.33%, 33.33%, what I tell them is each day draw a triangle at the top of your journal, and you have to journal. It's important to take it from here and write it down.
Definitely.
So I tell them to put either the mental side, because you are so angst with anxiety that you feel it's here. So then at the top of your triangle, that particular day, you've got to hone in and make sure that that's okay. And then what's the second thing that's really got you in fear or trauma filled? Is it spirit? And are you one that's going to go ahead and go for a walk or do your workout? Then you don't need as much to say, I got to get this done in the day. That's for me. I've been a trainer for 25 years, so usually physical's at the bottom of my triangle, but it doesn't mean it has any less weight.
Right.
That makes up 100%. You all do 85, 10, and 5. So tell us that breakdown.
So I was watching a documentary on Netflix, and there's a psychologist who was explaining his philosophy, and he mentioned, he was asked in the documentary, when someone first comes in and want to get help and they want to get healthy, they want to start that path of being healthy. And he mentioned that the initial benefit or the initial impact of starting the journey is going to come from movement. It's going to come 85% of that initial benefit of getting healthy is going to come from movement. But that's only going to last so long. So I was doing the math. I'm like, okay, well, I went to the triangle of life because before that I taught the triangle of life as well. And so what that means, you have 15% left. So the idea is not that, it's not in terms of the work that you got to put in, it's in terms of impact. The 85% impact right away. And then you have 15% left, emotional, mental, and spiritual work. And that's like the heavy lifting. That's where the trauma is. That's where the pain is. That's where our behavior patterns that we've had for so long. So 15% doesn't seem like a lot. But like I was telling you in the show yesterday, if you look at how different we are from the monkeys, from DNA standpoint, it's only 2%. But that 2%, it's a huge difference. So that's that 15% that you have left over in terms of like what you have to dig through in terms of it's a lot. That's the real heavy lifting.
So you do 10 and 5.
Yeah, 10.
What's the 10%?
So 10 would be the mental, emotional work. So it's in the soul part, you have the mental, the emotions, and then your will. And then spirit at the very top. At the very tippy top, that 5%, that's the spirit. But it's, that's the key,
That's it.
That's the
We
key.
truly believe that's the missing element.
That's the missing element.
And so long in life, and maybe today's your aha moment, that you've said, it's my spirit that's lacking, that's not making me whole, that's making me walk around and feel so alone. Yes, right?
Definitely.
That's the powerful side of trying to pull it all together. What have you found for yourself since you both started to work on this, that when you got your own light bulb aha moment, how did it change your life?
Oof. Good. Angel, you go first. I don't have time for that one.
Monica's asking hard questions.
That's a great question.
In 2011, I was living my life, and everything was like he says, the rope gets pulled from underneath you. And I was spirit, soul work, mental. I wasn't doing I wasn't even reading books. But when I found myself in that low, dark, difficult, painful moment, I was like, okay, something's got to be different here. And that's when I started the journey within. I started connecting with spirit. I started meditation. I started mindfulness. I started reading. I started journaling. I took the spiritual journey within, and that was a game changer.
Yes.
And in all my years of coaching, as I coached different entrepreneurs, people in immigration, people that work out, like anybody, the missing piece, everybody goes into physical and they work out their bodies and they're in great shape, but you don't work out the mental, you don't work out the emotional, especially nobody wants to deal with God, right? And it could be whatever God of your understanding is, but you gotta have some kind of spiritual connection, some spiritual practices that will help you connect with your essence so you can find a sense of peace, because then that translates to everything else you're doing in your life.
Yes.
Like you gotta have a sense of peace and calm and stillness, and then, man, you can tackle anything after that.
Don't you just feel better just by listening to what he has to say? All right, you've had time to think.
Yeah, well, the reason I wanted him to go first is he's kind of part of my story. So, before the military, all the way back when you talk about trauma, since high school, I've kind of been on my own. Like my parents were off doing their own thing. I had siblings that were probably more important, but I had to figure it out on my own and adapt and insert myself. So throughout the military, I got that. And the rug's pulled from under you, right?
Yeah.
It's over, right? So as I was transitioning, Angel and I knew each other prior to service, and then getting out of service, we stayed in touch, and then we ended up working together, and during that time, I was going through my divorce, my separation from the military, my depression, and just had a child, dealing with all of that, and, having to split custody, and all the world coming down on you, woe was me, all of that. So, Angel was really a resource for me going through all that. And I've told him multiple times, and I'll tell him again, like, thank you for what the time he was there for me. So since the military, since I've been in and even getting out, there's always been someone there to be like, hey, There's other options. Hey, just take a moment to breathe and look at this.
Breathe.
So when I started at Grunt Style, I started back in 2020, and it's been a fire under my ass, the purpose to give somebody that, and when the foundation started a year ago, us doing content for, from Grunt Style, we're part of all that,
Right.
And we noticed there was a gap, right? There was an opportunity to use our experiences as we serve our community. It's like, hey, there is something here that we know we could insert.
Sure.
So from there it was like, here we are today talking about it, but we used our personal experiences. We're trying to help people when their backs are against the wall, because our backs used to be against the wall.
And you are. So when you say you're trying to, you already are.
Yeah, see, it's
You
real.
already
Like
are. It's the visualization of
Yeah.
where you were a year ago to what you've brought it to. I'm going to bring just a little humor into it, and I want you all men to listen to this. The two of you actually, I think, were brought back together. Didn't you say you have a salsa connection?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was a dance instructor, and he was a musician, and that's so we kind of met through that scene initially.
I love
Yeah.
that. Would you please tell more men to dance?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, you have to.
guys.
Especially every woman loves a man
I-
that dances.
See
I
this
have
man?
not,
See this man
right?
behind me? That's my husband. And when we first dated, he didn't dance. He actually left me on the dance floor. And I'm like, where'd he go? And he said he was scared because that man, my father, and that woman were champion swing and jitterbug dancers. So I grew up in a dancing family.
Yeah, I have not met a
But
single woman that doesn't want to dance.
Yes,
I-
it's sexy.
Yep.
I actually accomplished something I'm pretty proud to talk about it. At Grunt Style, the Christmas party last year was Havana Nights. I brought some friends in. It was salsa night, live band, and my girlfriend, she had never really danced salsa in the company. We talk about work. We talk about veteran issues.
Yes.
No one talks about shaking their ass. Well, at least not the salsa music.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, we're celebrating our successes, the launch of the foundation, all the accomplishments and the advocacy work we did, and we all shaked our asses to some salsa
There
music.
you
That's
go.
awesome.
So I was pretty proud of that. That was a good time.
And
yeah.
you know what? It's not easy for a man to move and do that salsa hip movement. That's what he says. He's like, I can't do that. It doesn't move like that. Yes, it does. Just practice.
Yep.
Practice,
Just
practice.
everything just takes practice.
So we're talking about the triangular compass, and before we wrap up, one of the things that I thought was very powerful, Angel, that you had talked about in the show that we did together, and this is one thing that I've mentioned, but it was worth repeating, and it is hats. You're wearing one, and it is wearing a hat in a job that you have, and it's an extension of you.
Yeah, we all have roles that we have to play. We can't get away from them because we have to exist in society. You could be a husband, you could be a wife, you're a father, you're a son, you're a mother, you're an employee, you're a boss, you're an entrepreneur, you're a salsa dancer, you're a fitness instructor. They're all hats that we wear.
You're a veteran.
You're a veteran,
Yes.
right? But who wears the hat? It's the same individual wearing all the different hats. And I've noticed that somebody will be very good at their job and very skillful and successful, but then they go to their personal life and then they struggle.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, aren't you kicking ass over here?
Right.
Yeah, but that's work. It's no different.
Yep.
So don't focus on the hat. Build the person wearing the hat.
It's the same thing with the service member wearing the jacket, taking
Yes.
the jacket off.
That's
It's
it.
the same thing.
You don't
still the
lose.
fiber.
You don't lose it.
Right. The fiber of your being.
It's still in there.
All right, we're going to go back to again. It's the mental side, the emotions, the spirit, the soul, the body. We put it all together and watch what happens as you walk around as a whole person. So,
right.
the triangular compass, where can we find out more information?
So the Triangular Compass is set to launch when the broadcast launches at the
In
end
September.
of September, right? So when you visit AmericanGrit.com, you'll see we have a couple buckets of content. We have pride and service, humor, a lot of our advocacy work, but you'll see a category called the Foundation, and within there you can check the Mental Health and Wellness tab, and that's where the Triangular Compass will live, along with all of its resources and our partners and our podcast and content.
The whole
all
shebang.
there.
It's all there for free as well. Like, again, this content is available for you to consume.
Beautiful. Continue to do your incredible
Thank you
work.
so much. You
so
too.
much.
Thank
Seriously.
you, JD and Angel. Now, we've been talking about Grunt Style, but maybe you don't know about them, their shirts, the foundation. So we are going to bring in Tim Jensen and then Boone Cutler. They will be my guest in the blue chairs when we return. Invita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Invita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Invita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Invita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online invitahealthandwellness.com. Welcome back to the Real Monica Adams Show, and we have had a really powerful hour. Now, you heard the last gentleman talking about Grunt Style, but maybe you've never heard of them. Maybe you've never seen the shirts or were aware of the foundation. Have you ever heard of fifth generation warfare? That's what we're going to talk about here in the final 15 minutes of my show. So let me first introduce Boone Cutler right here to my right in the blue chair. He is a retired U.S. Army sergeant, veteran activist, and author of The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. And then we have Tim Jensen, who is the president of the Grunt Style Foundation. Gentlemen, thank you both for being in the blue chairs today. Greatly appreciate it. Let's start with Grunt Style. So we were just talking with Angel and JD, and he mentioned that he worked for Grunt Style, and people hadn't heard of it possibly, or didn't know. Maybe they are aware of it. They see the logo and go, oh, those shirts. Yeah. I know those shirts. So how long ago has the actual T-shirt company been around?
Sure. Well, the company was founded in 2009 by a former drill sergeant in the Army, and the idea was to take the values and those characteristics that are imprinted upon us in our military services and take that out to the civilian world and start sharing that. And what better way of doing that is, through the vehicle of a T-shirt, right? You can express yourself, you can express your ideas on that medium, and from there the company has really grown, right? We're at about 450 employees now. Wow. 17 retail positions. We're in over 4,000 doors in the United States through our wholesale program. We sell on Amazon, so it's kind of like American Express. We're everywhere you want to be.
I love what's on your chest. This we'll defend. From that, you then start a foundation, and that started when?
The foundation started in 2021. And we've been doing this work for a very long time. The company has been very involved in givebacks within the veteran community, right? The way we look at it is what we sell is pride, right? Pride military, pride in country, and it just so happens to be on fashionable items that you can wear. With those profits, we have been really putting the money back into the community over the years through givebacks, through our End of Watch program, where we are creating product for police officers and taking the profits of that and donating it back to the families that have lost their significant other, and all these other platforms, right? And then we, during COVID, it's like, we could do better, right? We can do this bigger. We could do this louder. And we put together the Grunt Style Foundation. And what it really operates on is four key pillars. That's mental health and wellness within the veteran community, food insecurities, transition and sustainment, and veteran homelessness. Why those are important to us is because the needs within the active duty military right now are pretty extreme, right? We have inflation through the roof right now. The government is not keeping in line with that inflation for its employees, and we're starting to see this having great impacts upon the active duty forces. Those especially that are married with dependents, most of them, the numbers fluctuate between 1 in 3 and 1 in 6 are on some sort of food insecurity or food stamp. To me, that is a gross negligence, right? These individuals should not be worried about putting food on their table for their family. Sure. They should be worried about training and keeping the defense of this country front of mind and in focus. And you can't do that when you're struggling to put that on the table, put food on the table for the family. And it also leads to other things that end up putting this individual into some sort of homeless state, right? After military, during military, whatever the case may be. We see it all the time, right? These stresses break up families. From there, the service member starts getting into a very negative behavior, destroying themselves through alcohol and other abuses and addictions. And next thing you know, this individual's living on the street, and that is not how we should be treating our veterans and our military forces. Honestly, we could do better, and that's what we're trying to do with the foundation. And
you are, and we should not be treating our heroes that way. Which, by the way, both of you are. We've been saying throughout the entire hour, these are all veterans. What branch did you serve in?
I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1997 to 2005.
Semper Fi. Thank you very much. And we mentioned retired U.S. Army Sergeant Boone Cutler. Boone, we talked at length in this beautiful long day that's going to turn into an incredible 3-part series that everybody will be seeing in late September. And one of the parts at the end was this panel that we did for 45 minutes talking about something that a lot of people have never even heard of before, this phrase of fifth generation warfare. You authored the book of The Citizen's Guide to that. What's fifth generation warfare?
Well, I co-authored the book with General Michael Flynn, and fifth generation warfare is the generation of war that we're currently in. If we look back pre-gunpowder, that was really the first generation of war, and then with every step of technology that grows within the world comes another generation of war. And right now it's fifth generation war, and the focus is mainly not on the physical battle space, it's on the cognitive battle space. It's through manipulation. It's how other countries impact other countries, specifically how other countries are impacting the United States, and changing the culture through manipulation. This is the fifth generation of war.
So people hear 5G. Oh, I've got 5G on my phone. This is all exciting. And we are glued to it. I mean, some people say they can't even cut the cord. My husband has said before, I feel like it's implanted in your hand. For my work, it is a necessity. A lot of times I was like on call as a news director 24 hours a day. That's a different thing. One of the things you talked about in this panel is addiction, though. And people do not feel that they're addicted to it, but you see the behaviors of it.
We do see the behaviors of it. I ask everybody, if you don't have a business that you're running through the internet or through your phones, you're just, you're a person and you have social media and you like to be online all the time, try and put your phone away for 2 to 4 hours a day during waking hours and see what happens after about 10 minutes. If you start making excuses that, hey, I really need to be on there because, well, that's a whole lot like, hey, I need more heroin because, it becomes an addiction. And the worst part about that is for people to manifest their own addictions and to maintain them, they're getting their children addicted to these iPads. They're using them as babysitters and whatnot so they can continue to be online. Meanwhile, while they're online, they're constantly being manipulated through these AI-driven psychological programming systems. And now they're giving that to their children. And this is the biggest problem, is that we're giving these to our children so they can be conditioned through this manipulation process as well.
And one of the things we discussed is this term, brainwashing. And you see that happening through this fifth generation warfare.
Absolutely. The brainwashing takes place through this what we call AI-driven psychological programming, which people are not talking about within the realm of artificial intelligence. They're talking about, it's taking jobs. It's, it's great because we're learning new things, and it's not really about that. There's another aspect of it that needs to be discussed as humanity, and that is how much manipulation is happening through these systems and how much is being actually launched. We don't need to. They don't need to launch bombs into the United States anymore to destroy it. They can just launch these manipulation systems, and these manipulation systems really are showing that they're affecting all groups of people in different ways, primarily to lose confidence in their government, lose confidence in the things that are around them that they've seen, their culture, and it's creating a ton of division. Mm-hmm. We see these filter bubbles and these feedback loops where people are just stuck in one place, and they just cannot understand other people, and that's because we're being divided. Constantly divided through these manipulation systems that are primarily launched online.
One of the things we talked about yesterday, Tim, that I thought was very interesting was it's not your neighbor. It's not someone that you think is your enemy. You're your own enemy. You're turning against yourself.
Yeah, because there's no good way of putting it other than isolationism, right? Is you're starting to isolate yourself from the world around you in this augmented reality that is being created, this construct. And, there's, dehumanization that's happening with that. There is, manipulation of your mind. And then, the environment around you, right? As you get closer and closer to this idea, the further from reality you're really becoming. And you're starting to manifest your own ideas, right? That are just not grounded in reality. And you're seeing it. Like, I think one of the biggest, eye-opening events that happened in the last 10 years, right? It was COVID, right? And the mask of this country has been ripped off in terms of the mental health of this country, and the way that we are looking at our neighbors, the way that we're interacting with each other. I mean, we got to the point where it was almost like Nazi Germany, where we were pointing out people in our country, our brethren and our sisters, and saying, hey, you're not vaccinated. You are not essential. What are you doing outside your home without your mask?
What does that sound like? I mean, for people to think that these types of techniques can't work on them, well, I think that's what other people thought in different times, and it absolutely does work.
Absolutely.
So as soon as we start with this progression, and I'm really glad Tim brought it up, start with polarization. And there's this very distinct arc that happens when bad things happen. And then as you start with polarization, from polarization you go to tribalization, from tribalization comes dehumanization, and after that it simply becomes killing. So we are putting ourselves in line for really, really bad things, and people need to wake up, because polarization is the enemy, not your neighbor, not the person down the street, not the person who looks different than you, but polarization is the enemy, because that's what leads to the tribalization. Once you hit the tribalization phase, people start to dehumanize the other tribes, and then people start killing each other.
And it's that lack of respect, which is something I brought up on our panel yesterday, that suddenly you're turning against this person. They look different than you, but that's because somebody else put it in your head of, I think that's how you think. What? Well, wait a minute. I don't even know my own beliefs anymore. And then it becomes a lack of respect completely, that people are taking each other's lives as if we're in a Hollywood movie, and then they'll just get right back up and we'll film the scene again.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, what's this fad that's going around the internet right now? Like this conspiracy idea that flat Earth, like this, it's the 21st century, ladies and gentlemen. We are seriously sitting here talking about the idea that we live on a flat Earth and there's some ice wall around us that's protecting us and we can't get off this planet. Like, that's a real conversation. Where is that coming from?
And that's the trick. Once they can get you to believe one thing that's totally outlandish, then you become more susceptible to believe other things. And that takes you really out of a sense of reality. And this is the problem. Once you get people out of that sense of reality, they'll do anything.
We're going to take a quick break. Once again, we're talking with Boone Cutler and Tim Jensen, fifth generation warfare. I also want to give you some of the websites we've been mentioning throughout the hour. Very impactful for your life. We're talking about AmericanGrit.com. I also want you to go to StopSoldierSuicide.org. And then if you want to know more about fifth generation warfare, we'll tell you where you can get this book as well. More with Tim as well as Boone when we return.
It's the icing on the cake.
The final brush stroke.
The finishing touches make all the difference in your home, too.
Have fun and get started at carolhouse.com/room planner.
With thousands of accessories in our 3.5-acre showrooms.
Get your picture perfect room and the lowest prices in the country at Carol House.
Because you like nice things.
Welcome back. It's been a really powerful hour. If you're just tuned in to the Real Monica Adams Show, go back. That's the beauty of it. It'll be on Facebook and YouTube, and then we drop these shows on all the audio podcast platforms. So whether you get it on iTunes or iHeartRadio or Spotify, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to listen to these shows as well. Receive the message. Understand the change that you can provide to this world. We've been talking about fifth generation warfare. We've been talking about Grunt Style Foundation.org, by the way, is the other link that I want you to go to. I asked you on stage, Boone, about 5G, but everybody's like, oh, I'm excited, it's 6G. If we get to that, what's in your mind?
Yeah, and to clarify for people watching, fifth generation war is 5GW. 5G is the system that they're using for cellular, and so that's not to confuse those. But fifth generation warfare, once we move into sixth generation warfare, then, and some people say we're already there. This is the thing. Fifth generation warfare, the tactics in fifth generation warfare have overlapped through all other generations of war. There's always been some sort of psychological operation happen through other generations of war, but now it's not a supporting aspect or an ancillary aspect. Now it's the primary. It's the primary line of operation. It's the primary tactics, the primary strategy to manipulate people. Once we get into the sixth generation of war, then we're really looking at the entire world being run by autonomous drones and AI. We're not in control of anything. Everything is, people are siloed into their minds and specific ways of thinking, which keep them separated from other people. That's the AI aspect. And then the autonomous drones. You can really just have one country patrolling everything with these mechanisms and these systems that are automated. And so that's why we really need to get back to thinking about, okay, how do we become human with humans and start integrating again? Because it's the separation that facilitates all these things.
And we're walking around literally like robots and then being led in this path and that path. And you mentioned before about getting to the children. One of the things we brought up is to go back in history and look at the brown shirts, look at the Third Reich, and look at the fact that they used young people to get across their mission. And we're doing it again through tablets. We're doing it through what's happening in the education system.
Yeah. I mean, you look at some of the examples. You're seeing mass, crowds of teenagers, right, that are being, called to a certain area. Like, what was the latest one was it was a giveaway in the city square and brought thousands of children and teenagers into that place. Like that is manipulation, right? That is manipulation, and it's at face value. And this is what's occurring. Like we could look back to throughout history, where if you want to change the direction of a country, you influence the children, and then you turn the children against their adults, right? And we could look back in history. The Khmer Rouge, right, is a very good one. But
Rwanda,
right? Even what's happening in Africa right now, right?
Yeah.
The killing that's happening there. So, a lot of this is manipulation. A lot of this is, going back to the idea of like once you could start separating people from reality, right? This idea that JFK Jr. is still alive, right? That's running around like, what are we talking about, people? Like this is ridiculous, but. The mind has become susceptible to these things, and through coercion and through all of these other inputs that are happening, like we need to protect our children's minds, because the next thing we know, right, is those mobs will become violent, and then those mobs will start, to Boone's point, in the trajectory of things, they start the killing.
Well, it's also to take the mindset off of a focus of something, right? So that we're not looking at what's happening in our government.
The jazz hands.
Exactly, the jazz hands. One of the things I wanted to say before we wrap up, and thank you, by the way, for what you did. Can you talk about the story about the PACT Act and you sitting on the Capitol steps?
Yeah, I think the PACT Act was something that we are very proud of at the Grunt Style Foundation. We have many members that have been working on that for well over a decade, trying to really bring healthcare to the veterans of the GWAT era that had suffered from these toxic exposures that were happening in Iraq and Afghanistan and other countries during the global war on terrorism. We put forward a great bill that we really had to fight for, fight in ways that I never thought we would have to do, especially in my own country. And, after getting escorted out of the Capitol building by Ted Cruz's request, that really changed a lot of things for me, my perceptions of how the United States government and Congress specifically look at veterans and their issues and their needs, because that became a very political tool, that they were willing to put human lives in jeopardy because they lost a couple bills in previous session. So that to me turned me off against everything, and it really sparked something internally to say, what, this is the line. We're now, this is the red line. We're not there. No, we're going to sit here and we're going to protest, and we're going to show the country the right way of doing this. And we petitioned our government for 6 days on the Capitol steps. We did it peacefully. We called as many people that we knew. We brought thousands of people inside of the Capitol. We had detractors trying to start issues and really try to throw us off our game, but we handled all those with respect and without violence. And by that 6th day, we had broke the 25 Republicans that had voted against the bill that previously voted for it, and won them over. And we picked up additional Republicans on that bill, and we passed one of the greatest laws in the last century for veterans.
Thank you. Thank you for being loud and proud.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes it's what has to happen for a movement to take place. In our final moments, what do you want people that watch this show to step away and, first of all, research, be more present, right? But when it comes to fifth generation warfare, when it comes to the Grunt Style Foundation, what would be your lasting words?
Well, first of all, there's no way we could explain everything about fifth generation warfare in this amount of time.
Yeah.
It really takes, we wrote a book called The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare, which is a series. And session 1 is Intro to 5GW. Session 2 is this one here, How to Fight Artificial Intelligence. This is 50,000 words. And it's really about getting intimate with what's happening around us. Everybody feels like there's something wrong. People feel like we're on the crazy train going to crazy town, but they don't know what to call it. And what it's really called is fifth generation warfare. Educate yourself, get control of your families, get control of your neighborhoods, and really start working as a team again, because it's not us against us. It's us against them.
And don't just accept it, do something about it. We can get that book where, Boone?
You can get it anywhere books are sold.
Okay, so A Citizen's Guide to
Fifth Generation Warfare.
And lastly, Tim?
Yeah, I think I'm going to end with what I'm grateful for, right? And I'm grateful for Boone and being within his circle and the great work that he's doing, and knowing that I have great friends that have an interest in this country and want to see something better and doing things to actually make that occur. I'm grateful for you, Monica, for having us on on your show and being able to spread these great words of to others, so you guys can understand what's going on, so you can put a finger on it. And I'm grateful for the team that I have at Grunt Style Foundation and the Grunt Style business. Without any of them, none of this stuff that we are doing would ever be able to really happen. And it's an incredible staff that is extraordinarily passionate for the things that they do. And anything that for your listeners out there, if you guys want to get involved, we are doing things all over the country. All you have to do is go to gruntstylefoundation.org, see where we're at, and get involved. We would love anybody's help, if that's time, if that's resources, if that's money, whatever the case may be. We'll accept all of it.
Okay, this is eerie because we did not at all know that this was going to happen. I haven't introduced this on my show yet, but ready? Look what it says.
There you go.
That's meant to be, folks. I am grateful for, and we are starting to introduce this on the show, and he just literally said it. We have to find gratitude. We have to find faith again, humanity. One of the things I said on the panel, and the thing that I always end my show with, is being kind, right? Get out of your box, get out of your own way, and see another person that maybe you think you wouldn't talk to, or you think you wouldn't connect together, and you'd be surprised. I am trying to restore faith in humanity all over again. Thank you once again, both of you, for your service. Thank you for what you're doing. And one of the things I love about Grunt Style is, yes, you're online. Yes, there's a way for us to find it, but you hold events to get people off the tablets, off the computers, off of their phones, so we're not brainwashed into this. Can't wait to read your book, by the way. Great. Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Both Boone Cutler and Tim Jensen. Again, we're going to give you all the web links that you need and wrap up the show with 100 Days to Freedom. I'll let these gentlemen pick which one we're going to do when we return. Envita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Envita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Envita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Envita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment, or online, EnvitaHealthAndWellness.com. Welcome back. Wasn't that incredible? Again, thank you to each and every woman that's ever served for us, no matter the branch that you've been in. And again, our first responders, our police, our law, our EMTs, paramedics, all of you, literally put that uniform on, and the things you do, you are true heroes. Well, you heard the gentleman say 100 Days to Freedom. The one that they chose was for shame. So, yesterday once more, yes, I alone will blot out your sins for my own sake and will never think of them again. That's Isaiah 43, verse 25. The Carpenters, a super mellow 1970s pop group, had a hit song called Yesterday Once More. The lyrics speak about hearing an old song on the radio and recalling pleasant memories and emotions that take you back to the good old days. People love this feeling so much that there are more than 400 oldies radio stations in the United States. I miss Clue, by the way, here in town. But what happens when the old days are not so good? What happens when they are, in fact, the cause of your shame? Those who are trying to overcome shame often encounter this same problem. They hear a song on the radio. They bump into someone at the supermarket. Maybe they see a Facebook post, and suddenly the past comes rushing back. They've been trying to move on from what happened, but suddenly some random encounter triggers a memory, and they're breaking out in a cold sweat. They feel sick about what happened all over again. It'd be nice to be able to anticipate those situations and to avoid them, but we can't always. In fact, a better plan is to start fully embracing the truth that Isaiah shares in that verse for today, that when we humbly submit to God and repent, He blots out our sin and never thinks of it ever again. The next time something triggers that painful, shameful memory, stop whatever you're doing and thank God for blotting out and forgetting your sin. Then ask Him to help you let go as well. Today's prayer: graciously Heavenly Father, your promise to blot out and never think of my sins again is at the heart of my joy. Help me remember your faithfulness in doing this when the past threatens to pull me back to unhealthy thoughts. Thank you again for tuning in to another edition of the Real Monica Adams Show. We are here to change lives on a massive scale. I met some incredible men and women in the military, and we've got probably another few weeks before the beginning of those series start to show on AmericanGrit.com, on GruntStyleFoundation.org, StopSoldierSuicide.org, the book, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. All of these things I want you to look into, and I want you to always remember, if you know somebody in the service, know that they're probably struggling through some hard times. Thank them for their service, and then offer a chance to help out whatever they've been through. Remember, you can go out, you can be in the military, you can be whatever you want in this world, but before you do anything, folks, be kind. Love you all. God bless.